The subway was packed like a can of sardines. I held onto the strap and scrolled on my phone, with the smell of sweat mixed with cheap perfume. "Ah, what are you doing?" A scream tore through the carriage. I looked down. A woman was pointing at me, her bright red fingernail almost poking my nose. The surrounding passengers quickly stepped back half a pace, and everyone's eyes focused on me. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I looked at her. A trace of slyness flashed in her eyes. "You're filming me with a camera." Her sobbing tone was very practiced, as if trained through years of live streaming. "Take off your shoes. Hand over your phone." Someone raised a phone, and an invisible circle of judgment began to take shape. I immediately turned on my phone's speaker and played the Loyal and Brave Army March. This could prevent the video from being taken out of context, and I chose this song to make the short video harder to pass online review. "You look like a damn telegraph pole, and you still don't piss and take a look at yourself." I stacked some buffs on myself first. "Ha ha." Someone in the crowd burst out laughing. "You still dare to insult people? Just you wait." The more agitated she became, the calmer I became. I absolutely could not prove my own innocence. That would mean falling into a prearranged trap of the narrative. The person framing you knows better than anyone how wrong you really are. She suddenly rushed up and grabbed my collar. Muscle memory instantly kicked in. I stepped back against a pillar, drove both hands from the inside to shove her elbows hard, and lightly kicked her shin with my toe. She lost her balance, and I pinned down the back of her hand while twisting her wrist outward with my other hand. A standard joint lock. Having your collar grabbed is a typical opening to close-range conflict. The attacker can easily destroy your balance. If there's pushing or tripping, the back of your head could hit something hard. Your throat and face are exposed, making you vulnerable to knee strikes or punches to the jaw. I never put moral shackles on myself because of gender. No matter who my opponent is, I respond with full force and maximum malice. The legal boundary is my only limit. "He's hitting someone. Help!" she screamed. "Stop. How can a grown man do this?" A sleazy guy squeezed out of the crowd, coming up and immediately trying to take sides unfairly. Just as expected, I turned and shoved her into the sleazy guy's arms, preventing him from approaching me from behind. Then I quickly backed away a few steps to open up the distance. I scanned the surroundings, with several phones pointed at me, and I couldn't tell whether there were any other accomplices. I pulled out my keychain and wrapped it around my hand, with the tips of the keys sticking out between my fingers. A makeshift knuckle duster. The sleazy guy gave up pestering me and turned to comforting the woman. I felt a little safer. The truth wouldn't be hard to find out, but it would take time. Once this got posted online, I'd be doxxed in no time. I was already on the verge of social death. Based on past cases, it would be easy to lose my job and drag my family down with me, even if things were clarified later. Basically, no one would care. The instigators would pay almost no price at all, and yet the price would be borne by all women, and the real victims would not receive the attention they deserved. A subway security officer walked over. I decisively shouted, "Call the police now. She's high, and she smells weird." Fighting back with nonsense. Like a mad dog, she started pretending to sob, but her eyes remained fixed on me. If she's not on drugs, then how is she hallucinating? Seeing a shoe as a camera? My voice was clear and forceful, making sure everyone around could hear it clearly. This person reeks of a burnt, sour stench, and her mouth has a metallic, sickly sweet smell. She's definitely on drugs. Call the police now." "I'm not. You're framing me." Full of acne, receding gums. Obviously an old junkie at first glance. Paranoid and suspicious, delusions of persecution. Typical aftereffects of drug use. She was completely stunned and turned to the sleazy guy for help. The security officer stopped the argument and called in over the radio. "Beep, beep, beep. Fusimio station has arrived." The doors opened, and the security officer took us out of the carriage. Him too. He rushed up trying to attack me. He's definitely an accomplice. I pointed at the sleazy guy. The cops on the platform immediately hauled him down too. He shouted that he was in a hurry, and I sneered inwardly. "If you've shown off, don't think you can run." After hearing the situation, the team leader's expression gradually changed. "Take off your shoes." He pointed at me. "Officer, I have an old leg injury. Can I sit down for the inspection?" We were taken to a public bench. I readily took off my shoes and handed them over. "No problem." After the team leader finished checking, he handed the shoes to the woman. "He hit me just now." "That's right, I can testify." The sleazy guy was seething. "Officer, this female junkie reeks the moment she opens her mouth. She's definitely on drugs." I directly changed the subject. "You can recognize the smell of drugs?" The team leader narrowed his eyes as he sized me up. Here in Longwa Iron Fist, drug use is taken far more seriously than secret filming. Drug control results are a key part of annual performance evaluations, directly affecting commendations and resource allocation. Every new addict could lead to clues in a major case. Each one is a walking third-class merit citation. I usually like watching legal programs. This person has serious delusions of persecution, and there's a sickly sweet strange smell in her mouth. It should be that new type of drug reported recently. Nonsense. I just drank milk tea. She tried to scratch me, but was immediately stopped by the cops. I didn't hit anyone first. She rushed over to hit me, and I restrained her in return. After this accomplice jumped out, I let go. What accomplice? I was just passing by. Shut up. Go check her. The team leader told his subordinate to put on gloves and open her backpack. Captain Wong, no suspicious items found. Everyone's eyes turned to me. I looked at the pile of belongings on the floor, the corners of my mouth lifting slightly. Found it. A pack of wet wipes. Comrade, you weren't very thorough. New drugs are all water-soluble. Taken by holding them in the mouth and sucking. Even I know that. Your anti-drug training must have mentioned it, right? Women usually carry tissues or blotting paper in their bags. Basically, if you check, you'll find something every time. If not, there's also lipstick, lip balm, gummy candy, or milk tea packets. All of these can be identified as carriers for new drugs. Powdered traditional stuff is actually hard to see in daily life. Disguised as everyday items is what tends to be popular in certain groups instead. The key is that it can't be judged on the spot and can only be confirmed through testing. Good and evil have nothing to do with gender, only with the individual. When facing someone who is openly framing you, you have to use some tactics to protect yourself. With such a big bag of stuff, I reasonably suspect that I stumbled upon drug trafficking, which is why I was targeted for retaliation. Just saying drug use isn't enough. It has to be escalated to drug dealing. Drug use is a public security case, but drug dealing is a criminal offense. I've been in charge of this area for more than 10 years. I don't need you teaching me whether there's drugs or not. The team leader shot me a cold glance. He had probably already figured out the trick. After a while, he came back with subway staff. I watched the surveillance footage. It was probably just a misunderstanding. If you're willing to mediate, then apologize to each other. Go back to the station and sign your names, and that'll be the end of it. The woman and the sleazy guy looked unwilling. Why not be the bigger person? Apologize first. After all, you did lay hands on her. Things like this can be big or small. The team leader started trying to talk me into it. TCH, no way around it. Frontline law enforcers deal with disputes and conflicts under overload every day. I understand that they want to smooth things over, but when it concerns my own vital interests, I absolutely cannot be sacrificed to this muddling through approach. Whoever wants to prioritize the big picture can go ahead. I'm not playing along. The body cams are all on, right? A young cop nodded. I am Gulong. I hereby formally report these two for drug use and drug trafficking under my real name. If you believe the report is untrue, please issue a written notice of refusal to open a case. My voice echoed across the platform, and the onlookers loudly cheered. The humiliation of having to take off my shoes for inspection just now was swept away. Even though it was already 10 p.m., the bystanders still pulled out their phones and aimed them at the two of them. If you refuse to open a case, I reserve the right to file an administrative lawsuit according to law. I read out their badge numbers one by one. Take them away. Back to the station. As more and more people gathered, the team leader acted decisively. Standing on the escalator, I thought of that famous saying, Chinese people always like compromise and moderation. If a room is too dark and you want to open a window, that will definitely not be allowed. But if you propose tearing off the roof, then they'll compromise and agree to open the window. Once you give way in this kind of matter, if you try to get tough afterward, people will only think you're making trouble. The victim is always detained and investigated for a long time, while the false accuser pats their butt and walks away. The root cause is not understanding the law and not knowing how to fight magic with magic. A few threats are enough to scare people into meekly accepting their loss. Since we know false accusations are basically cost-free, we have to immediately counter with a false accusation of our own. As the great man said, seek peace through struggle and peace will survive. Seek peace through compromise and peace will perish. Young man, you study law, don't you? After getting into the police car, the team leader took me alone. I have the right to refuse to answer questions unrelated to this case. What I quoted was Article 120 of the Criminal Procedure Law. Longwa has no explicit provision for the right to remain silent. Blindly copying the American routine of staying silent and waiting for a lawyer would only make people laugh. Not bad, you've studied well. But if refusal is considered suspicious behavior, the scope of the investigation may be expanded or the questioning time extended. As this involves another person's criminal acts, I will actively cooperate and truthfully state what I know. I understood his hint. Next, I was probably in for some hardship. When someone reports a drug crime, if no case is opened and problems arise afterward, all responsibility falls on the officers who handled the dispatch. I was forcing them, reasonably and legally, to go through the cumbersome process, but I was also challenging authority, so resistance was inevitable. Gazing at the myriad lights outside the car window, I felt increasingly calm. It was nothing more than a bit of hardship. The Jean vehicle drove into the Wooey Alley police station. After getting out, the sleazy man and I were searched and made to hand over our personal belongings. The woman was taken to the other side. Sign your name here. The sleazy man didn't have much on him, so he finished the formalities quickly. He turned back and saw the things in my pockets being pulled out one after another. What is all this? The clerk doing the registration frowned at the pile of odds and ends. Besides my phone, watch, lighter, flashlight, keychain, and wallet, a bunch of strange items were also taken out of my waist pouch. A survival whistle, signal mirror, wire saw, paracord. In the first aid kit were an emergency blanket, tourniquet, bandages and gauze, fish hooks, and fishing line. The waterproof container was opened, revealing common medicines and water purification tablets. I listed them off like treasures from memory. The registrar frowned as he wrote them down, then opened my wallet. The folded map and multifunction knife card. Register those too. Carrying so much stuff. Are you going grave robbing? Personal hobby. Being prepared isn't against the law. I sneered inwardly. This was just EDC. If I brought a PSK or a BOB bag, this sheet of paper wouldn't even be enough. Write down your phone password. He handed me a slip of note paper. Searching a phone requires a search warrant. Are you sure you want to do this? You. He stopped himself mid-sentence. The team leader raised a hand in a signaling gesture. I was taken into a small room and skillfully sat down in the interrogation chair. Click, the lock snapped into place. Opposite me sat a level 3 Jean officer, 1 bar 1 star. Just as he was about to speak, another person came in. Who is that? No uniform, no badge. Let me see your ID. You think I don't know better? I need to see both of yours. The 1 bar 1 star already showed me his credentials when summoning me. The one who just came in seemed to be an auxiliary Jean officer, and by the rules had no right to be here. Don't be nervous. Let's just chat casually. I don't want to chat at 11-something at night. I want to sleep. I glanced at the electronic clock on the wall. Do you call the shots here? Sleep after we're done talking. I directly lay sprawled over the little desk and pretended to sleep. After a burst of commotion, the auxiliary Jean officer went out, and a 1 bar 2 star came in. Judging by his age, he looked like the 1 bar 1 star's mentor. Listening to him start instructing the procedures, I felt annoyed. Practicing on me in the middle of the night, like I'm some training exercise? Look up, I'll show you my credentials. The 1 bar 2 star held up his credentials high. Lower them, I can't see clearly. Anyway, I already showed them to you. If you can't see clearly, that's your problem. A veteran was a veteran. He knew how to deal with suspects. You. The 1 bar 1 star had just started to speak when I cut him off again. You still haven't informed me of my rights and obligations. We'll inform you once we begin. So it hasn't started yet? Then I'll sleep a bit more. After stalling for a while, the 1 bar 2 star handed over a thick stack of documents. I can't read them. I didn't even reach out. Read them to him. The 1 bar 1 star had no choice but to start reading. He read for a full 20 minutes. Sign it. No. This stack was nothing more than a summons notice, notice of rights and obligations, security check form. And the most crucial one, a waiver of liability for self-harm and self-mutilation. But that actually reassured me more. This police station was very by the book. In some smaller places, they often make you sign these only after the questioning is over or even when you're leaving. The 1 bar 1 star wrote down that the suspect refused to sign. The two of them signed separately, and the auxiliary Jean officer came in and signed as a witness. Let's begin. Why did you come to the police station today? If you don't know that, why did you arrest me? I looked utterly incredulous. I'm the one asking you now. I already answered you. Just record his answer like that. Personal information, name, age, address. Gulang, ID number times. Nothing else to say. Refusing to identify yourself can extend the detention time, so I answered selectively. Besides, they could look it all up in the system anyway. Someone accused you of secretly photographing a woman's private parts, and you were caught on the spot. Is that true? I don't remember. The 1 bar 1 star walked over and showed me a surveillance screenshot. Is this you? I can't see clearly, not sure. Answer yes or no. That's leading and coercing a confession. I really can't see clearly. Just record it truthfully. Multiple choice questions are traps that get you killed. Since I had to answer A or B, then my answer was, or, why is it that you know nothing and remember nothing? Headache. It's the middle of the night. I just want to sleep. Has the station provided you with food and rest or not? No. It's past 12 and you're still not letting me sleep. If you're going to the cafeteria for a late-night snack, bring me a portion too. I work out. I don't eat late-night snacks. He rolled his eyes at me. After another half hour of pointless socializing, the 1-bar 2-star gave up. Put him in the cage for now. I was taken into a small single room. Do you want your family to be notified? No need. Bang. The thickened iron door slammed shut hard. Lying on the narrow, hard bench, I began to review the situation. This police station was quite proper. The dungeon difficulty wasn't high. The more developed the area, the more standardized the public security organs were. Urban districts were better than the suburbs, and the near suburbs were better than the far suburbs. My first lesson after entering society was dealing with the hats. Last year I got roughed up pretty badly by a rural police station, and the administrative lawsuit still isn't over. Just because I happened to pass by a criminal suspect and was captured by a public camera, I was taken in for questioning. After that incident, some strange filters and unrealistic fantasies were all shattered. I spent time cramming legal knowledge. Of course, the most important thing is to judge the situation. Right now I was in the center of Nanjing City, and there truly was no record of any criminal conduct on my part. Otherwise, with the attitude I had just shown, I'd very likely have been zapped with an electric baton until smoke came out. There's nothing shameful about backing down when the situation looks bad. Acting stubborn and unreasonable may look like making a scene, but it wasn't deliberate provocation either. There are no noble professions in this world, only noble people. Most people are just trying to make a living. At their core, they're all just completing KPI. As long as they're human, they want to slack off, and people hate trouble. Once they had a suspect, the primary task of the organs of violence was to find evidence proving a crime. If they let a criminal go, the responsibility fell on them. Even if they discovered a mistake, they still had to turn the case into an ironclad one, or else face accountability. Once the procuratorate approved the arrest, after it went to court, there was only a 3 in 10,000 chance of overturning the case. How could one person's grievance possibly outweigh a whole group's bonuses and promotions? From the very beginning, the two sides' positions were completely opposed, just like the seating in the interrogation room. Learning to use the rules and letting people know you can create trouble is the only way to have value worth courting. I also had my own principles, based on a plain sense of ethics and justice. If I didn't commit a crime, I shouldn't have to prove my own innocence. He who asserts must prove. This is a basic principle. If they insist on presuming guilt, I will fight the case to the end. If in the end I still can't get an explanation, then I can only give myself one. Knife skills are also law, and physics is also reason. Ballistics is also doctrine, and driving skill is also skill. No matter how high your legal resistance, you still fear one stomp on the gas pedal. Classical mechanics is invincible everywhere. Anyone may betray you, but Sir Newton won't. He's fair. One crime pollutes the water flow. One unjust verdict pollutes the water source. The public security world in Longhua used to be nothing like the civility of today. It was also forced forward bit by heroes like Yang Jia and Hulan. The boundaries of citizens' rights are very blurry. If you don't fight for them, you'll lose them. As I kept thinking, drowsiness set in. Just as I was about to fall asleep, noise erupted outside. Sure enough, it was the same last time too. Every time I was about to doze off, a few auxiliary gene officers would deliberately gather at the door and chat loudly, disturbing my sleep. No, this voice sounded a bit familiar. I pricked up my ears and listened carefully. It was the woman who framed me and the sleazy man. It sounded like they'd just finished a urine test and had some hair taken too, and they were cursing nonstop. Looks like they wouldn't have to sleep in the cage. As the voices gradually faded away, Gulang looked around the holding room. It was a cramped, enclosed single room with an area of only a few square meters. The walls were padded with soft anti-collision material. Aside from the bench, there was only a squat toilet. There were no windows. There was just a vent above, making it extremely stuffy and oppressive. Most people, if kept in a place like this for just 1 hour, would have their psychological pressure max out. Once they were let out after that, they'd become much more obedient. But for him, this was nothing at all. It was far more comfortable than sleeping under a bridge. I'm thirsty, I need water. I'm hungry, I need something to eat. Gulang stood in front of the camera in the corner and shouted loudly. Seeing no response, he repeated himself over and over like a broken record. Based on past experience, at most after 6 or 7 repetitions he'd achieve his goal. The Gene Affairs inspectors conduct video patrols, after all. If they got caught, the station would be in a lot of trouble. By regulation, questioning cannot exceed 24 hours. After applying for an extension, at most it can only be 48 hours. The first round just now was merely an appetizer. The hardest part would be the second round coming next. He needed to maintain enough mental and physical strength. Finally, the iron door was opened. Gulang got a bottle of mineral water and 2 pieces of bread. After finishing them in a few bites, he took off his shirt and pants and patted them under the bench. After lying down again, he seized the time to rest. He used the pilot rapid sleep method, originating from the Mean Nation Navy during World War II. The first step is progressive muscle relaxation. Tense all the muscles in your body. Hold for 2 seconds, and then suddenly relax. Focus especially on relaxing the facial muscles. Frown, close your eyes, clench your teeth, then suddenly release. This can quickly reduce neural excitation, send a signal of safety to the brain, and initiate sleep preparation. The second step is adjusting breathing and self-suggestion. Use the 4-7-8 breathing method. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7 seconds, exhale for 8 seconds, repeat 3 times. Use the breathing rhythm to regulate the parasympathetic nervous system and activate the brainstem's sleep initiation area. The third step is to empty your mind. After closing his eyes, he silently repeated, "Don't think," for 10 seconds, using monotonous repetition to suppress mental activity. Gulang's muscles were like jellyfish in water, his thoughts like a vacuum, and soon the sound of snoring began. No one knew how much time had passed before he was woken up. The person who came was the familiar Maui. This time, one of the 2 chat companions had been replaced, though it was still a Maui. The previous guy had probably gotten off work. "Did you rest well last night?" "No, the stool was too narrow." "Did you eat?" "Yes, but I didn't eat my fill." "Be serious. Do you know what kind of place this is?" The man slammed the table angrily. "This is the place where Yafai Gue handles business." Gulang answered seriously, standing tall with his chest out. The other person beside him covered his mouth, almost laughing out loud. Unfortunately, he soon stopped laughing. During the questioning that followed, Gulang, as always, refused to answer everything. Maui frowned and dug a pack of cigarettes out of his pocket. "Please do not smoke in public places." "What did you say?" "I don't understand." "Since you can't understand anything we say, then now I can't understand anything you say either." Gulang spread his hands to express his dissatisfaction. "I see you even changed your name before. The reason can't be simple, right? Citizen freedom, reasonable and lawful. Is the person in this photo you?" "I already said, I won't identify anyone." "Why do I feel like your expression changed the moment you saw this?" "If you think my expression changed, can that be used as evidence? Is your brain even normal anymore? Even suspects have dignity. Don't casually insult my character." "I was talking to myself." "Oh, you were so loud, I thought you were saying it on purpose for me to hear. You're still not signing, right?" Maui had been taking the statement beside them the whole time. Gulang had the feeling of being treated like a workbook to drill through. "Although I won't sign, I still need to verify the contents of the transcript." After getting burned once, Gulang understood how scary it could be. The same incident could have many different interpretations. Faced with thousands of words, an ordinary person simply can't spot where the traps are buried in a short time. "Now I will read you the search warrant." Maui put down the document and grabbed Gulang's finger to unlock the phone. After that, Gulang was tossed back into the cage again. This return nap didn't last long, ending in about an hour. "You really can fall asleep anywhere. Come out." The visitor said this with admiration. Gulang hadn't slept enough, so he got up and stretched lazily. "This is the result of your refusal to cooperate. I don't seem to have the obligation to incriminate myself or prove my own innocence." Gulang calculated the time. The legal review should have been finished. They went all the way to the mediation room, where the woman and the sleazy man were already waiting inside. It looked like they had stayed up all night, and their complexion was far worse than Gulang's, even though he had slept. After everyone present sat down, Maui began reading the case registration form. No one was injured in this incident, so it does not constitute a public security case and is preliminarily classified as a civil dispute. Any objections? No. The 2 people opposite immediately shook their heads. "I object." Gulang raised his hand. When she rushed up and grabbed my collar, she shoved me, causing the back of my head to hit the pillar handrail. "You're talking nonsense." "I didn't." The woman immediately screamed. "Whether you did or not, the surveillance footage will tell. Looking at your condition, you don't seem injured at all." Maui glanced at Gulang disdainfully. "At first I really was fine. But didn't you just suspect my brain wasn't normal?" "That's right. I really have started having symptoms of blurred vision. I space out from time to time, and my memory is starting to fail too." Gulong put on a dazed expression and paused. I studied medicine. I suspect my brainstem is damaged, and I request an injury assessment. Then Gulong directly slumped onto the table and began groaning softly. The symptoms he described were typical of mild brainstem damage. In severe cases, it could cause sudden death, and legally it counts as a minor injury. But medically, it is relatively difficult to diagnose, and it can heal on its own. As long as he kept up the act for a few days, it was possible a doctor would issue a diagnosis stating mild brainstem injury that healed naturally. In that case, the incident would escalate from a civil dispute to a criminal case. The Public Security Bureau would need to open a case for investigation, and the other party would also be criminally detained. After criminal detention, a request for arrest approval must be submitted to the procuratorate within 3 to 30 days. Before the result comes out, the other party would remain under control. But if it was a civil dispute, then if mediation failed, it would only be transferred to the Citizens Mediation Committee. If further mediation also failed, it would have to go through the long litigation process. As long as the other party refused to appear in court, it would turn into a situation where only he was wasting time and energy alone. Since the circumstances were minor, the judgment would also be difficult to enforce effectively. There were all kinds of past cases to prove this, and in the end, even getting a public apology would be difficult. Gulong would never allow that to happen. You offended the abbot and still want to run? Once you enter this cycle of reincarnation, don't even think about reaching nirvana so easily again. Seeing Gulong continue trying to escalate the situation, the officer on the scene thought for a while, then showed a helpless expression. He took the woman aside alone, put on a stern face, and started doing ideological work. He seemed to be talking about how long it would take for the injury assessment report to come out, along with some legal responsibilities. Afterward, the officer also called the sleazy man over. Very soon, Gulong heard the sleazy man shouting. The scene turned into the officer and the sleazy man surrounding the woman together. Gulong heard a lot of things like, "For shameless scoundrels and invincible troublemakers, you can't outlast them. If you step in dog shit, it'll delay you for a long time, so don't stoop to their level," and so on. He chuckled inwardly. Once you become a troublesome problem that can't be resolved, the conflict will shift somewhere else. After half an hour of wrangling, just when Gulong was about to fall asleep again, the officer came over and patted him on the shoulder. A public security mediation agreement was placed in front of him. The other party is willing to apologize to you and voluntarily compensate for your losses. Gulong got up and looked at the terms they offered. Only 500 yuan. Are you sending off a beggar? That's already quite a lot. It's not even a big deal, so that's enough. This concerns my life and health, and my personal dignity. No, you'll have to add more money. Then name your price. Pay what you see fit. If I'm satisfied, I'll naturally sign. Gulong snorted coldly, trying to set a trap again. If he really asked for an outrageous price, then once he got the money, the next thing would be a charge of extortion slapped on him. Gulong wasn't anxious at all inside. Anyway, his time wasn't worth much. If they kept dragging it out, the one who would crack first would only be the other side. Even if in the end he could only get 500, that was still a pretty high daily wage, so it wasn't a loss. As for the insincere apology, he didn't need it. It was better to exchange it for money. If apologies worked, what would public security officers be for? The sleazy man sounded very anxious, seeming to be in a hurry to get to work and wanting to get away quickly. He was already begging the woman to lower her head and admit defeat. He and the officer played good cop and bad cop, trapping the woman in the middle. Only after the sleazy man offered to chip in too did the woman finally nod. The officer ran back and forth several more times, and the bidding price rose to 2,000 yuan. Seeing that Mao Air's patience was already running out, Gulong decided to stop while he was ahead. The woman and the sleazy man each put up 1,000 and transferred the money to Gulong. Seeing Gulong's sign, the woman immediately got up to leave. "You still haven't apologized? Poor loser. Now that you've got the money, shut up." The woman turned back and cursed. "Officer, she is openly insulting me. I take it back. I request that the punishment procedure be restarted. Poor loser doesn't count as an insult. At most it counts as belittling. You, come over and apologize." Under the officer's intervention, the woman had no choice but to turn back. Through gritted teeth, she squeezed out 3 words. "I'm sorry." Then she fled without looking back. Arrogant before and deferential after. Just thinking about it is laughable. Ha ha. Gulong laughed out loud. Then the sleazy man picked up his personal belongings from the table and also left the mediation room. Because Gulong had too many things, it took some time to inspect and check them. Before leaving, Mao Air walked over. "This is the notice of non-filing you requested. After investigation, The person you reported was found not to have engaged in illegal or criminal acts such as drug use or drug dealing. This is to inform you. Okay, then please issue me another decision of no administrative penalty. I don't want some strange record left behind. It's already been issued. Here you go now. When they reached the entrance of the public security station, Imao Air couldn't help chatting with Gulang again. Your education level should be pretty high. Gulang laughed, thinking to himself, does Longchong discriminate by education too? No, I dropped out in high school. Imao Air dejectedly muttered to himself. Sigh, work these days is really getting harder and harder. No, you've already done very well here. Your procedures are much more complete than in other places. Aside from the smoking, everything else was very standardized. Gulang rolled his eyes at him. Oh, I get what you mean. That was in the past. Now everywhere is very standardized. Gulang cursed MMP inwardly. This guy had indeed checked his records. Knowing that his administrative lawsuit with the previous public security station still wasn't over, no wonder they had been so polite. No matter how much they rectify things, the people doing the work definitely won't be as standardized as you are. Their methods were extremely crude, so they were afraid of losing the case. The moment he thought about the suffering from last time, Gulang grew angrier and angrier. The smaller the place, the more lawless it was. Everything depended on how strong your connections were. No wonder all the young people had left. If the same thing had happened there, Gulang would never have dared to have the attitude he had now, or he might really have gotten killed. When they reached the door, Imao didn't let Gulang leave. Instead, he continued criticizing and lecturing him for a while. Quite a few people had come to the station to handle business, and it quickly drew a crowd. Under this kind of psychological pressure, most people didn't have thick enough skin to last even 5 minutes. They would only lower their heads, admit fault, and beg the cops to hurry up and let them go. Just because someone broke the law doesn't mean you can break the law too, let alone when I never broke the law at all. Seeing that the other party was still going to keep yapping, Gulang shouted as he took out his phone and dialed 12389. I want to file a complaint that staff at Wui Alley Public Security Station are smoking in the case handling area. Public security organs should take the lead in obeying the law and discipline, and effectively eliminate fire safety hazards in public places. The commotion immediately caused a wave of shocked reactions. Gulang's whole style was simple. If he wasn't happy, nobody else was going to be happy either. As long as there was a chance, he would definitely clap back and worry about feeling good first. You really do have a rebellious streak all over you. By this point, Imao was actually a little impressed with Gulang. Heh, turns out you're the one in your station who understands me best. Imao waved his hand, signaling that Gulang could leave. Officer, may I go now? You can go. After getting a clear answer, Gulang strode out of the public security station with his head held high. Gulang's stomach growled. It was already 1 p.m. He still hadn't had lunch, so he scanned a shared bike. He set off for the nearby commercial district to look for food. Gulang had a clear target and headed straight for McDonald's and KFC. He skillfully rummaged through the leftover fries, nuggets, corn cups, red bean pies, and ketchup packets on the tables. As long as it hadn't been bitten into, he bagged it all up and took it away. Seeing there was also a Hema Fresh nearby, Gulang went in and found a seat with a good view. Gnawing on an original recipe chicken piece, he began observing the customers coming and going. Very soon, he scored another half box of fried shrimp and 10 skewers of fried snacks. After eating, he felt a bit thirsty, so he picked up 2 large Coke bottles from the trash can. He found a public drinking water point nearby and skillfully washed the bottles clean. After filling them up, he packed them into a plastic bag and took them away. Well fed and watered, Gulang got on the subway. Along the way, he opened several mainstream social media apps. He checked the local trending searches and searched a few keywords. He didn't find any information related to last night's incident. Because of Gulang's report and counteraccusation, the woman had been restrained on the spot. Naturally, she had no time to write a little essay herself. Any other possible accomplices had probably also given up stirring things up online because of his bizarre moves. Gulang mentally reviewed the whole incident. He began considering writing some 1970s quotations on a hat. If he ran into this kind of thing again, he'd just put it on his head. It would immediately give him a buff that made him impossible to be selected for short videos. In the Dragon Kingdom today, gender antagonism is severe. Quite a few self-media accounts rely on controversial topics like this to draw traffic. They even deliberately manufacture conflicts to attract attention. As a result, similar incidents pop up every so often. It was obvious that underground fighting really was very profitable. Even if the hype operation failed, there was basically no loss. They could even go get handouts from foreign NGOs. It was basically a guaranteed profit business. Of course, that was on the premise that they didn't run into a tough nut like him. Only after scrolling on his phone for more than an hour did Gu Lang come out of the terminal station. He familiarly turned into the vegetable wholesale market and continued opening treasure chests. After searching vigorously for a while, he quickly gained quite a lot. It drew quite a few grumbles from several old guys on the scene. The amount of discarded vegetables and fruit here every day was astonishing, feeding quite a few secondary decomposers. Carrying the big plastic bags back to his rental room, Gu Lang ate a vegetable and fruit meal without salad dressing. After resting until dark, he timed it carefully and went out again. This time, he camped out at the entrance of Sam's club. Calling out handsome guy and boss with a smile a few times, he successfully got a kind-hearted person to bring him inside. By taking part in the free sample tastings, he ate to his heart's content. Steak, roast chicken, salmon, mochi, daifuku, cheese buns, milk, coffee, lime juice. Although the amount each time wasn't much, the variety made up for it. If he ran into something tasty, he would line up a few more times, and after spending a bit of time, he was full. On the way back, he saw an employee at a bakery, moving things around in preparation to close. He proactively went over to help and got another 2 bags of cake scraps. That even solved breakfast for the next day. After returning to the rental room and washing himself and his clothes, he suddenly felt exhausted and went to sleep in satisfaction. In his dreams, Gu Lang seemed to return to the past. Wearing a school uniform and carrying a snakeskin sack, he walked through a snowy field. He trudged along, stepping deep and shallow as he crossed obstacles. He crossed the highway, passed through large stretches of farmland, went up onto a bridge and down an earthen slope. He walked from day into night, and the black numbers on the roadside kilometer markers had increased by more than 20. He didn't know where the destination was. He just didn't want to go back to where he had come from. The next morning, a burst of ringtone woke Gu Lang up. Dissatisfied, Gu Lang picked up his phone. It was 8:30 in the morning. "Hello, Mr. Gu. We're calling to give you feedback regarding your complaint about smoking at the public security station." A few emotionless sentences in a female voice came through the receiver. "Okay, I'm listening." After investigation, the circumstances described in the complaint were found to be true. The Superior Supervisory Department has ordered the head of the public security station to make corrections and has conducted an admonitory talk with the relevant responsible personnel. "Oh, okay." Gu Lang responded perfunctorily. There are now no smoking signs posted in conspicuous places throughout the station. From now on, not only the case handling area, but all indoor areas of the entire station will enforce smoking bans properly, and log records will be implemented. Okay. May I ask whether you are satisfied with the handling result? Please reply with very satisfied, satisfied, relatively satisfied, or dissatisfied. Very satisfied. Gu Lang replied coldly. "Okay, thank you for your supervision. We wish you a pleasant life. Goodbye." After hanging up, Gu Lang let out a sigh. A handling result full of nothing but stock phrases like this could at most last a few days. After that, everything would return to the way it was. If it got the station chief scolded a few times, that was already the limit. As for the satisfaction survey, that was even more ridiculous. He wouldn't bother making things difficult for these case handlers who had no power at all. Whether the person making this call even had an official post was still up for debate. There was no need to deliberately make life hard for working people. After waking up, Gu Lang felt a bit dazed. Rubbing his eyes, he looked around the room he was in. He lived in the cheapest one-bedroom unit on the top floor of a self-built house. As a result, the layout was extremely bizarre. It was basically just leftover scraps partitioned out by the landlord. The bedroom was trapezoidal and the bathroom triangular. There wasn't a single right angle to be found in the whole place. But there were 2 southeast corners, and both were acute angles. The shape was so complicated that when Gu Lang calculated the interior area, he needed to draw 2 auxiliary lines. At a glance, it could be called a home bare to the extreme. There was almost no furniture or appliances in the room. It had been like this when he moved in. When he placed the order on the short-term rental platform, the landlord had also noted that tenants needed to buy such things themselves. But judging by all the traces of habitation on the walls, the previous tenants had probably left behind some furniture they couldn't take with them. Unfortunately, the landlord had moved it all away. Who knew whether it had been put into a nicely furnished apartment or sold off? But Gu Lang wasn't about to let the landlord profit off him. He went to a nearby logistics distribution center and picked up 2 cargo pallets, which he put together and used as a bed. For bedding, he used an outdoor inflatable sleeping pad and a sleeping bag. Once compressed and packed, they could be stuffed into a backpack. As for other things, such as a tent, water bladder, water filter, outdoor wood-burning stove, portable cookware set, and so on. He had them all. Besides these common outdoor supplies, he also had some tools and defensive equipment. With these things, he would have no problem even living out in the wild. Renting this place was purely for the sake of recuperating properly. Earlier, he had filmed several episodes of ruins exploration videos and was unexpectedly bitten by a short-tailed pit viper. He had only just returned from a hospital follow-up after recovering when he ran into the false accusation incident. He would probably end up on a blacklist this time. And his lease was about to expire too, so he had to hurry up and change maps. Thinking back on yesterday's events, Gulang began to ponder. Although he had once again obtained a decision of no administrative penalty and still maintained a criminal-free record in the national public security system, local public security bureaus each had another independent local system. After the scene he made yesterday, he had probably already been put on the list of key monitored persons. Next, in the city, his travel, work, and daily life would all become a bit troublesome, especially in places where you have to swipe your ID to enter or exit. He could be flagged and questioned wherever he went. At the very least, it would take a year before the mark was removed. But to him, it wasn't that big a deal. He was a freelance creator, so he could just leave and change to a different environment. As an online fiction writer and video blogger, Gulang had been living like a nomad all these years. He drifted all over the country, traveling while looking for inspiration. By constantly gathering new material, he kept his content fresh. In the end, from the vast number of netizens and advertisers, he made a little money. Gulang picked up his phone and opened Writer Assistant in the Video Creator Center. It still looked like nothing much had improved. All his creative earnings were still a pitiful single-digit amount. For a completed post-apocalyptic survival novel, his daily income was a little over 2 yuan. Of that, 0.30 yuan came from gifts he farmed himself by watching ads. Since he wouldn't reach the minimum withdrawal requirement of 100 yuan this month, he would have to wait until next month to withdraw the money. Several short and long-form video accounts together earned 7 yuan a day. This month, that just happened to meet the minimum urban-rural basic pension standard. He quickly scanned the interaction list. There weren't many likes or comments either. The few private messages he had received were all asking for footage and materials. The content Gulang created was fairly miscellaneous, including outdoor travel, ruin exploration, and survival challenges. He balanced survival education with goofy absurdist humor and occasionally did some live streaming too. He only had a handful of followers total, and tips were even rarer. Now that the bubble economy had burst and the overall environment was bleak, plus the impact of studios and AI artificial intelligence, it was becoming harder and harder for grassroots independent creators to earn income online, without extraordinary luck or some really hardcore tricks. Most of the time, it was just a labor of love. What happened yesterday did have the potential to blow up if he posted it. Unfortunately, the subject matter was far too sensitive. It probably wouldn't pass review, or it would get throttled. It could also easily attract organized attacks from online haters and get all his accounts trashed. After thinking it over, he gave up on the idea. Anyway, he ended up with 2,000 in hand, which was already his biggest single payment in recent times. Gulang didn't like smoking or drinking, and he loathed gambling and drugs with every fiber of his being. Usually, he didn't have many expenses. His only hobby was wandering the streets like a drifter. Enjoying a free life and living happily was enough. In the past, he had worked in all sorts of trades. He came to one conclusion: there was no way he was going to work for someone else, not in this lifetime. Everywhere was full of slave drivers. You couldn't find a proper capitalist. The little money he earned wasn't even enough to pay back his medical bills. But this was the worst of times, and also the best of times. In this age of immensely abundant productivity, as long as you use your brain a little and drop your pride, starving to death is hard. The city's scraps and leftovers alone were enough to keep a vulture like him alive. Just as he was thinking about where to go farming today, Gulang's stomach suddenly started to hurt. Oof, eating too greasy yesterday really did make him spray. Gulang rushed into the bathroom and began clearing his body's memory. After sitting on the toilet for a long time, Gulang started twisting his body in a bizarre way. The bathroom had no window, and no one fixed the broken light. He was forced to use the bathroom heater lamp for lighting, and after squatting there too long, the heat got unbearable. He had to keep adjusting his posture to avoid getting his skin burned. After finishing in the bathroom, Gulang, whose skin had gotten another shade darker, began his morning workout. He went through push-ups, squats, leg raises, handstand push-ups, and bridges. Using a crossbeam, he then did pull-ups. These 6 movements were collectively known as the 6 arts of convict conditioning. This discipline originated with prison inmates. It was summarized and established by the American Paul Wade during his 19 years of imprisonment. It relies entirely on body weight as resistance and requires no specialized equipment. It makes efficient training possible in a limited space. The movements are designed to emphasize natural force patterns. Although its muscle-building effect is limited, it can avoid the common shoulder and knee injuries seen in equipment training. Even in conditions of scarce resources, it can still strengthen the body. Each basic movement is further divided into 10 difficulty levels. For example, jackknife squats progress to one-leg squats. Wall push-ups progress to one-arm push-ups. After training all of them to level 10, there are advanced methods like convict muscle and convict explosive power. Its value lies not only in having a complete training system, but also in passing down a core spirit of self-discipline and toughness in adversity. Studying the law is so you can speak calmly to idiots. Working out is so idiots can speak calmly to you. After finishing his workout, Gulang sat on the toilet and took a shower. Then he called the landlord and explained the situation. If you terminate the lease early, the deposit won't be refunded. The landlord's duck-like rasp rang out. The short-term rental contract is 1-month deposit, 1-month rent paid at a time, and you won't refund the rent either, so it doesn't affect your ability to keep renting it out. I don't care. You're the one breaching the contract anyway. The landlord's sneer came with a phlegmy edge. The deposit is only $500. If you return it, I'll move out today. Otherwise, I'll have no choice but to call 96119 and have the fire department come inspect for safety hazards. Who are you trying to scare? I've been renting out rooms for over 10 years, and I've never seen any fire inspection. The fire passage is blocked by clutter, and there are no fire extinguishers installed. If the report is verified, it'll be at least a 6-month suspension of rental. Huh. The landlord froze for a moment. Your building is partitioned into 13 rooms. I calculate the monthly rent at $7,000. Under tax law, individuals renting out residential property have to pay 10% property lease income tax, plus 2.5% stamp tax. Gulang deliberately paused. After more than 10 years without issuing invoices, how much do you think the late fees would add up to? Want me to call 123662 and ask about the tax payment records? The sound of a glass cup smashing onto the floor came from the receiver. Where are you? I'm coming over right now to inspect the room. After hanging up, Gulang packed up his personal belongings. After organizing everything, he stuffed it all into a 65-liter hiking backpack. Very soon, footsteps and pounding on the door came from outside. Gulang opened the door, and 3 people barged in. The landlord carried an oversized searchlight and began checking everywhere. There's damage here. The landlord pointed at the wall and shouted. The landlord's wife immediately stuck a yellow marker there. Their daughter started writing it down in a notebook. The 3 had a clear division of labor, and before long the room was covered with annotations. The walls, floor tiles, curtains, toilet light, and shower head were all listed as damaged, for a total compensation fee of 666.88 yuan. All the things you're talking about were already like that when I moved in. Want me to show you the move-in video? Bullshit. Pay up obediently, or don't even think about leaving. The landlord's breathing grew heavy, but Gulang didn't care at all. A deposit is essentially a performance guarantee and can only be used to offset unpaid rent or man-made damage to the property. By law, normal wear and tear cannot be deducted. Illegal detention is a serious crime, so think carefully before you speak. Gulang turned on his phone and started recording. You damaged my house. This is an economic dispute, and the cops won't get involved. The landlord's daughter put her hands on her hips, nose in the air. Oh, so you're an expert? Gulang laughed and handed over a public security mediation agreement. I just got 2,000 yuan in compensation at the police station. The record is there if you want to check. You can try and see who can outlast whom. While the landlord and the other 2 huddled together to look at the document, Gulang pulled a portable hand axe out of his hiking backpack and brought it down hard on the pallet. What are you doing? The sudden loud bang made the whole landlord family jump. The public security mediation agreement also fell to the floor. Chopping firewood. The lease termination isn't finished yet, so handling my own things doesn't require your permission. Gulang shot them a cold glance and kept hacking at the wooden frame. After a few strikes, the room had an extra pile of lumber. Don't get cocky, kid. Let me tell you, the party secretary here is my second uncle. People have made trouble before, and in the end it all got suppressed. Complain however you want. No locals will help an outsider like you. Watching the axe whistle through the air in Gulang's hand, the landlord couldn't help but take a few steps back. Gulang gripped the axe tightly, flexing the solid muscles on his body. He walked up to the landlord's daughter and took out his phone. Know what an internet court is? For 25 yuan you can file a case, and before the case is over, the house can't be rented out, and the listing information will be removed from all platforms. Gulang showed the various videos he had collected as evidence. This was a tactic he had learned from some forum. In disputes over online platform transactions, evidence is more lethal than anger. This is how technology changes lives. I may not have a proper job, but I can still afford this little bit of money. The landlord's daughter glanced fearfully at the axe, her face turning from red to white. Dad, forget it. It's only a few hundred yuan. It's not worth it. Then, the two of them spoke for a while more in the local dialect. It seemed they were saying that the mediation letter said Gulang had recently injured his head. He didn't look normal. He seemed dangerous. In the end, the landlord pinched 5 red banknotes out of his wallet. Take the money and get the hell out. Let's see who would still dare rent a place to you in the future. The shiny bald head flushed bright red. You'd better hurry up and buy a fire extinguisher, or the reward for reporting to 96,119 would be enough to cover my rent for half a year. Gulang tossed the key over. The landlord was so angry that he went off in dialect again, and even forgot to settle the water and electricity bills in the process. Slinging his bag over his back, Gulang left the rental apartment. After going out, he did not call the complaint hotline. Earlier, when he brought up the tax bureau and fire department, it was purely to scare the landlord. In fact, it only takes a few minutes to apply for a tax-exempt invoice at the tax office. As for fire safety, only buildings for special purposes need fire safety filing. For privately renting out an ordinary residence, in a place with so little to gain, nobody cares unless some major accident happens. The other party finally agreed to return the deposit mainly because he seemed hard to mess with. After going downstairs, Gulang strapped his hiking backpack to the bicycle. Leaving the urban village, he returned to the various resource points. After spending some time, he replenished his supplies. Today was the weekend, and the commercial district was much livelier than yesterday. Gulang even came across 2 completely untouched burgers. Then he got on his bike and headed to today's work site. After parking his bicycle, Gulang started the live stream. Found free food again, brothers. He showed the food he had just picked up to the live stream. Today, the place we're exploring is an abandoned shopping mall. Gulang switched to the rear camera and filmed the surroundings. A few sparse comments drifted across the screen. Cut the crap and get in there already. No time to listen to your nonsense. Gulang pushed open the grimy glass door and began today's live stream. This place used to be called Bali Plaza. Judging from the posted closure notice, it was probably abandoned after 2017. Sunlight filtered through the glass ceiling, illuminating the central lounge area. The surrounding shops were all hidden in darkness. It looked a lot like the mall in the game Left 4 Dead 2, with 3 floors in total. Graffiti was everywhere on the walls. Gulang took out an L-shaped right-angle flashlight and fastened it to his helmet with the headlamp strap. In a place like this, aside from people, the greatest danger is falling objects overhead. As far as the eye could see, the floor was covered with fallen gypsum boards. Once a building is abandoned, the drainage system quickly fails. After a few heavy rainstorms, the inside turns into a cave of cascading water. The ceiling gradually rots until it collapses. Guys, look over there. It's already been occupied by vagrants. Gulang pointed the camera in one direction. Even from this far away, I can smell a stench of fermented food and excrement. Laundry hung out to dry had appeared in the indoor garden. A shopping cart and several chairs were arranged in a circle. Inside were piled cardboard and plastic bottles. I can't see anyone right now, so I'll make a wide detour. Gulang took the phone off the chest mount. Switching back to the front camera, he made a shushing gesture at the phone. More and more people gradually entered the live stream, and the screen filled with question marks. Let me tell you, most vagrants are very dangerous. Never approach them on your own initiative. They're very hard to communicate with. Gulang explained as he went. While continuing to explore, it wasn't that he looked down on these people on the margins of society. Rather, this circle is extremely unusual. The homeless population generally has problems with alcohol and drug abuse. This is also the main reason they refuse to go to shelters. Long-term use of low-quality alcohol and illegal drugs can damage the central nervous system. Quite a few are in mentally unstable states. Some are outright fugitives, even involved in gangs or drugs. As a result, they are more likely to attack intruders out of nervous tension. To protect their territory, the homeless are not only perpetrators of violent crime, but often victims as well. Serious assaults involving deliberately setting homeless people on fire and burning them happen frequently. When lives are lost, nobody often cares. Homeless people who lack vigilance and aggression have a hard time surviving under the law of the jungle. The ones ordinary people can encounter are already survivors who made it through at least one round of elimination. And homeless encampments have extremely poor sanitary conditions. Not only do they easily breed infectious diseases and parasites, you might also step on needles. Approaching someone else's camp casually can also easily cause misunderstandings. Stealing scrap or food that others have scavenged is an extremely serious taboo. After getting farther away, Gulong continued the live stream. The ground was littered with plastic fragments everywhere, all originally insulation stripped from electrical wires. The wiring inside the walls had already been pulled out and sold for copper. Guys, we've finished exploring the first floor. There's nothing much to see. Next, we're going to the second floor. Gulong did not step directly onto the out-of-service escalator. Instead, he took a detour and used the stairs in the emergency stairwell. Unmaintained abandoned escalators are actually very dangerous and should absolutely not be used as stairs. Once the cover plate loosens and the steps come off, if you step through a collapse, you'll fall into the mechanical structure below. Pushing open the fire door on the second floor, he was suddenly met with a large number of plastic mannequins. They had been moved out from a clothing store and deliberately posed in all kinds of twisted shapes. The floor was strewn with clothes and shoes, probably dug out from the store's stockroom. The atmosphere was much eerier than on the first floor, and it was a little creepy to look at. The live stream still wasn't very lively, and no one was sending gifts. Only when he filmed dead cats or birds would people post comments asking for a close-up. The ruins exploration niche is fiercely competitive. The audience's threshold has long since been raised. It has forced many streamers to prepare scripts in advance. They have to stage some fake paranormal incidents to attract viewers. Gulong didn't have a team, so all he could do was honestly document things. After exploring for a while, Gulong finally found something that could excite the audience. Guys, I found the ruins of an ancient battlefield. Looks like lots of people duo-queued here. Gulong walked into a children's training center. On the dance studio floor, there was a large amount of semen. The floor was filthy, with clumps of tissues everywhere. On the wall was a huge floor-to-ceiling mirror covered in a layer of dust. Under the headlamp's beam, many handprints could be seen left on it. 666. They really know how to have fun. Love this. Film more. When Gulong captured a torn black stocking, the comments completely exploded. Unfortunately, the platform quickly sent a content violation risk warning, so he had no choice but to leave in frustration. Continuing up to the third floor, it was basically all restaurants. The atmosphere in the live stream gradually grew dull as well. After looking around, Gulong got an idea. Up ahead was an entertainment club. On the sign above the door were the words KTV, foot massage, hydrotherapy SBA. Brothers, this place has such complete services. Let's go in and take a look. You know what I mean. This place was huge, taking up nearly a third of the floor. There's a sign here. Let me see what it says. Dear guests, if you require wellness services, please contact the front desk directly. Extension number 1. Gulong paused, a mischievous grin spreading across his face. What are wellness services? Which bro here knows? Come explain it. Seeing that the effect on the show was pretty good, he stepped up the filming. He kept weaving through the piled-up tables, chairs, and sofas. Pushing open the door to the staff lounge, he saw 2 lines posted on the wall. Men conquer women by conquering the world. Women conquer the world by conquering men. Huh. Gulong laughed. What low-grade PUA, trying to fool little girls. After saying that, he went over and adjusted it. He crossed out the word come and tore off the word conquer. Pinching service world. Yeah, now that's more like it. After finishing the bit, Gulong crouched down and began filming the black high heels and short skirts discarded on the floor. Brothers, let me see. A whole floor of health certificates. This one's 20. This one's 22. All very young. Nearby there was also an entire wall of cubby lockers. And inside were identical suitcases. Gulong opened a few. They were all empty. What a pity. Didn't find any good loot. He had no choice but to turn and film the wardrobe, where a few skimpy women's outfits were still hanging. Opening a drawer, some pink toys appeared. Brothers, I really can't film this anymore. The mods are reviewing again. After being warned by the livestream platform once more, Gulong reluctantly came out with his fans. Only the budget hotel next door hasn't been explored yet. I have to say, the commercial support facilities here are very complete. After going in, the dozens of rooms were all more or less the same, with trash everywhere and an unbelievable mess. Only the second-to-last room was tightly shut. He took off his mask and sniffed carefully, confirming there was no smell of biological decay. When exploring abandoned buildings, sometimes you find human remains. If that happened, he'd have to go to the station again to assist with the investigation, and he had no desire to make a third trip behind bars. Brothers, here comes some content. Guess what's inside? Send some gifts, and I'll go in and take a look right now. After saying this, Gulong finally got things going. Various gift animations started popping up in the live stream. He took a fire extinguisher from the corner and smashed it hard several times about 10 centimeters to the side of the door lock. The latch of the inward opening wooden door snapped under the force, and with a creak, it opened. The light swept across. The room was unusually clean inside, with only a thin layer of dust. The curtains were tightly shut, and everything was silent. Gulong slowly walked in, and in an instant the hairs all over his body stood on end. More than a dozen yellow talismans were plastered all over the wall behind the bed. Holy shit. Gulong jolted and quickly darted back out. Guys, we ran into something unclean. This is fucking terrifying. I'm out of here. He ran all the way out and only stopped after seeing sunlight again. When he picked up his phone and looked, the live stream chat had exploded again. Is this how you treat us? Fuck, refund us. It's already over. So disappointing. I'm out. Can you go back? Too scared to go back, huh? So lame. Stupid streamer. Looking up, he saw that basically everyone was cursing him for being too cowardly. Seeing fans starting to unfollow one after another, Gulong had no choice but to go back into the corridor of the budget hotel and continue streaming. Guys, I'm back. If you haven't followed yet, hit that follow button. Follow the streamer and you won't get lost. The streamer will take you onto the fast lane. Send some gifts and you'll live to 88. Send a few more and you'll live to 99. Because of what had just happened, the number of viewers in the live stream surged. It instantly broke his all-time record and even attracted a whale account. Thanks to Xinghue Jui for the rocket. Thank you, boss. This was the first time Gulong had ever received such a big gift. After taking the top spot on the leaderboard, the big spender sent only 2 words. Go back. Okay, boss. A rocket clears the way and boosts the yang energy. With the boss holding the line, ghosts detour around us. I'll risk my life in the dragon's pool and tiger's den. I'd even dance wildly on a grave. Gulong rattled off rhymes non-stop, thanking him profusely. When he returned to the room, nothing had changed. He pulled open the tightly shut curtains, only to find there was no window at all. There was only wallpaper on the wall depicting a window and a sea view. In this standard twin room, everything felt eerie. Any brothers here know this stuff? Help me take a look at what these symbols on the talismans are. Gulong didn't know anything about this, so he could only ask the viewers for help. The one on the left is an evil-expelling talisman. The one on the right is a ghost-repelling talisman. I can see a golden light talisman and a 5 thunder talisman. You're mistaken. That one should be a 5 ghosts talisman. The self-proclaimed experts in the live stream started analyzing seriously. Turning around for another look, Gulong also found a house-protecting talisman on the entry beam. On closer inspection, the furnishings and ornaments in the room were also a bit unusual. Prompted by the chat, he found a bronze picio, a Namu wood box, a 9-fish painting, a candle-shaped lamp, and a Mount Tai stone. These 5 items formed the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Holy shit, this really is a in-house setup. Gulong had never expected to stumble into this kind of massive traffic windfall. His initial fear had already been completely overwhelmed by excitement. More and more people were flocking into the live stream after hearing about it. Just then, the rich guy's colorful highlighted comment floated by. Tear off all the talismans, and I'll send 1 plane for each one you tear off. No problem. The urgent command of the Supreme Lord Lao isn't as effective as a plane. Demons and monsters all scatter. Overwhelming generosity scares you out of your wits. Gulong stepped onto one of the beds and slowly began tearing them off. When he had run earlier, it was purely for show, to pad the stream time and ask for gifts. Thinking back on his years of outdoor camping experience, the most peaceful sleep he'd ever had was next to a graveyard. Once, Gulong heard crying in a public cemetery in the middle of the night. He blasted How Yun Lai, Good Luck Comes, at maximum volume and went over to check with a 3,000 lumen high-powered flashlight. It turned out to be just a solar-powered electronic Buddhist chant player that had run out of battery. It kept making drawn-out, distorted sounds. In the wilderness, sometimes running into a living person is far more dangerous than seeing a dead one. Growing up, he had only ever seen one kind of ghost, a broke ghost. The yellow paper talismans in front of him looked very old and worn. The cinnabar markings on them had also faded and darkened. As he forcefully tore down the last talisman by the door, they were lined up in a row on the desk. Let me show everyone. These are the real deal, freshly unearthed, obviously old at a glance, absolutely authentic. The details of the talismans were fully shown, and fewer comments in the live stream were questioning whether it was scripted. The comments warning the streamer to run, on the other hand, were increasing. Thanks to Jui for the 10 planes. Boss, you're generous. In a bit, watch me throw out these 5-element mutually generating ornaments too, just to spice things up for the boss. Since absolutely nothing was happening in the room, Gulong became more and more relaxed. He felt these yellow papers were no different from banknotes. Too bad there just weren't more of them. Feeling that he could end the stream in glory, he was about to leave with the ornaments. At that moment, Jui, now wearing a moderator badge, sent another rocket. There was still only one sentence. Sleep here after dark, and I'll send one rocket for every hour you sleep. Oh ho, looks like he'd run into a major client. Gulong thought about it for a moment. Honestly, in terms of cleanliness, this room was very clean. It looked just like a standard hotel twin room, with all the bedding fully provided. Even towels, bathrobes, and slippers were all supplied. Aside from having no water, no electricity, no windows, and being a bit stuffy, it was practically a perfect temporary place to stay. Thinking this through, he steeled himself. He switched his phone to the front camera. I'm sleeping here tonight. First I'll go make some preparations. 7 p.m. tonight, lock onto the live stream. Don't miss it. Amid cheers from the chat, Gulong ended the stream. He immediately sprang into action and left the mall. He headed straight to the nearest supermarket and, for once, bought some supplies. Then he strode into a restaurant and enjoyed a nice dinner. In that golden room, he was going to sleep soundly through the whole night. Before dawn, nothing could make him leave. Not even Yeshu could drive him away, his words. After cleaning himself up as quickly as possible and getting his supplies ready, Gulong locked up his bicycle again and slung on his hiking backpack. At 6:40 p.m., he returned to the abandoned mall in peak condition. Nothing had changed inside. It was still empty, and there were no vagrants in sight. A stupid bird that couldn't fly out kept crashing into the glass ceiling, making the sound of its wings flapping. Gulong hurried to set up an early warning system for his shelter. He used a screwdriver to remove a piece of old glass. Then he smashed it hard into pieces in the entrance area of the budget hotel. That way, if anyone approached, stepping on the shards would immediately make a noise. Next, he left the doors of all the rooms slightly ajar. He hung a fishing line across the corridor, fastening each into hangers inside rooms opposite each other. He then hung a large number of plastic bottles from it. That way, once anyone touched it, an alarm would go off. Returning to the previous room, Gulong closed the door and fastened the safety chain. Guys, I'm back, and the door is locked tight. Tonight, let's spend this sleepless night together. Let's do this. Gulong took 2 iron pipes out of his bag. Aiming at the threaded ends, he twisted them together. He assembled a long concrete tamping rod. This kind of thing is commonly seen at construction sites, originally used to test cement slump. When workers get into fights, it's also often grabbed and used as a blunt weapon. It's used similarly to an ancient iron mace. A piece costs just over 10 yuan. It's very cheap, and it can also pass security checks easily. When Gulong wandered around the city, he used it as his main self-defense weapon. After arranging his weapons, Gulong put a diffuser over the flashlight and placed it on the bedside table as a portable camping lamp. The bed against the wall, the one that had been covered with talismans, had already been dirted from being stepped on. Gulong lay down on the other bed and started chatting with his fans. Before long, the special effect for the first rocket appeared. To make sure the boss got his money's worth, Gulong had no choice but to keep investigating the room. After fussing around for a long time, he found nothing new. Everything seemed perfectly normal until he flipped over the bed beside him. Holy shit, something's not right, guys. Help me see whether this is blood or paint. A large black stain had appeared on the bottom of the old box bed. It vaguely looked like the shape of a person. At that point, Gulong finally understood why this room had been arranged like this. Based on the name shown in the hotel service manual on the desk, the sleuths in the chat found a news report. It turned out that a murder had once happened in this budget hotel. Supposedly, the cause of the incident was that the client thought the price agreed on beforehand was for the whole night, while the masseuse insisted that the price was charged per session. The two got into an argument, and the masseuse was slapped across the face. In a rage, she threatened to call the police and accuse the client of rape. The client, who worked within the system, feared he would lose his job. Before the masseuse could place the call, he strangled her to death. After cleaning up the scene, the client hid the body under the bed and fled. It wasn't until many days later that other guests noticed the smell. The person who found the body was also a John, and he was so scared on the spot that he went limp. Afterwards, he even wrote a long post online accusing the unscrupulous hotel. Gulang checked the room number, and sure enough, it was this very room. The moment this story came up, everyone in the live stream instantly woke up. The gossip got more and more outrageous and turned into a paranormal story-sharing session. They said that after the incident, the room started being haunted, so they brought in a master to suppress it. Gulang was actually happy to go along with it, and even pretended to be scared and want to leave. He immediately received even more gifts. The best way to overcome fear is to face it. Perseverance is victory. Come on, let's go. Gulang put on a determined expression, but inside he felt nothing at all. So what if someone died here? On this land, where hasn't someone died? The wooden boards under the bed had already been cleaned, so there actually wasn't much smell. It was just that the discoloration couldn't be removed, so it looked a bit scary. By 11 p.m., the originally quiet surroundings began to constantly produce all kinds of strange noises. Gulang knew this was because the temperature had dropped. Various building materials were expanding and contracting, making friction sounds. The wild animals in the abandoned building had also started moving around. Gulang had already heard rats squeaking. The mall became even livelier than it had been during the day. People in the live stream kept urging Gulang to go outside and take a look, but he remained unmoved. Big Bro had told him to stay in the room and not leave, so he was definitely going to honor the agreement. Besides, in a dark and unfamiliar environment, going out with a light on would make him extremely conspicuous. It would immediately expose his presence and location, which was very dangerous. If you run into bad people out in the middle of nowhere, no one will come save you no matter how hard you scream. As things dragged on until 12 o'clock, Gulang went into the bathroom to relieve himself. To save the water he was carrying, he could only use no-rinse gel to clean his hands. After discovering the secret under the bedboard, nothing else happened. As the live stream became boring, the audience gradually dwindled as well. After sending a few more rockets, the top donor temporarily disappeared. Gulang plugged a power bank into his phone and bought another data package. After setting up the phone stand, he started live streaming himself sleeping. It was his first time experiencing income while asleep, and it gave him the illusion of being a top streamer. Then at 2 a.m., something strange suddenly happened. Gulang was awakened by a strange sound. A whimper, ooh, ah. The sound seeped in right against his ear. Fine as a thread and carrying a cold dampness, it burrowed into his eardrum. Then it spread downward along his spine, raising a fine layer of goosebumps all over him. This sound definitely wasn't something that could exist in nature. It felt far too human. It was like a woman with her mouth and nose covered, making sounds in extreme fear or grief. A kind of broken, intermittent sobbing squeezed out from the throat. Gulang's heart pounded like a drum in his chest as he suddenly sprang upright. Gripping the concrete tamping rod tightly, he carefully inspected the entire room. There were no signs of a break-in, and he didn't see anything unusual either. The sound seemed to be coming from the doorway. Gulang picked up the flashlight and tiptoed over. He set the tamping rod by the door, slowly undid the safety chain lock, switched the flashlight to strobe mode, and yanked the door open. The strange sound disappeared immediately, and the hallway was dead silent. There was only an indescribably eerie atmosphere. He stepped outside and saw no signs that the fishing line or the glass shards had been disturbed. This was really bizarre. Could it actually be a ghost? Picking up his phone, Gulang quietly asked the viewers in the live stream, "Brothers, did you hear that sound just now?" It sounded like a woman crying. There were only a few people still awake in the live stream. Only one comment floated by. Streamer has no content, so he's forcing it now, starting to play up the mystery. Just as Gulang was starting to suspect the bad air here was causing him to hallucinate, the eerie sound rang out again the moment he sat back down on the bed. Gulang immediately strapped the phone stand to his chest and went to the door again. Holy shit, something's finally happening. Here it comes, here it comes. I've turned my volume all the way up. There really is crying. The comments suddenly increased rapidly. In front of all those viewers, he opened the door. The sound disappeared again. Looking at the comments, Gulang fell into fear. He was now certain this wasn't a hallucination. Something's wrong. Did I really run into the real thing this time? Meanwhile, the live stream's entertainment value absolutely exploded, and the viewer count shot up. Because the signal in the room was poor, he could only get 1 bar of 4G. The video bitrate for the live stream was very low, and the image quality was poor. Combined with the weak lighting and the fact that the recording device was just a phone, the footage was full of noise and had the feel of an old-school horror movie. Just as Gulang started feeling that something was off and was getting ready to pack up and run, that man appeared in the live stream once again. Here he comes, here he comes. Top donor Ju Yi arrived, bringing his rockets with him. Don't leave. Still as concise as ever. When you talk with money, you're bold. Watching one rocket after another fly across the live stream, Gulang immediately gave up the idea of leaving. Come on. It's just listening to a ghost cry. As a warrior of materialism, he feared nothing. With this much money on the table, he would even smile at a ghost if asked. Over the next stretch of time, the strange sound continued to exist, and came and went intermittently. In the live stream, the comments had already gone from discussing Celestial Master Zhang to quantum mechanics. Gulang started a poll. The explanation with the highest vote count was Schrodinger's female ghost, proposed by Jiu Yi. Supposedly, the female ghost existed in a chaotic state of being either alive or dead. The moment the door was opened, she would collapse and disappear because of the observer effect. When the door was closed, she would return to the doorway because of the resentment from before her death. Gulang couldn't be bothered to keep reasoning it out. He was exhausted now. He only got up to open the door perfunctorily whenever he saw a rocket. Earlier, to rule out the possibility that Gulang was faking it, Jiu Yi had already made him film the place inside and out. Because of that, Gulang conveniently received another wave of gifts. If everyone were like this, then proving your own innocence might not be so unacceptable after all. He smiled as he watched the gift value keep rising. After all the commotion dragged on past 3 o'clock, Gulang was too sleepy to bear it any longer. He lay back down on the bed and soon fell fast asleep. He can still fall asleep like this? Impressive, followed. Is the streamer actually sleeping? The EN energy in this place is practically bursting through the screen. Don't die in my phone, run already, please. The scene turned into Gulang live streaming his sleep, while tens of thousands of netizens listened as his snoring gradually drowned out the strange sound. There was actually only one reason Gulang could sleep so soundly. He had already solved the case. He just didn't want to say it out loud. Once the truth was revealed, quite a few people would be deeply disappointed. All the certainty they'd shown before would immediately blow up in their faces. He had his own professional ethics and absolutely could not let the top donor make a fool of himself. The strange sound was actually a vibration emitted at a frequency that made one's scalp crawl. If you listen carefully on site, you'd realize the sound was drifting down from above your head. The source was the indoor vent above the doorway. While live streaming earlier, Gulang had used a camera angle trick. To avoid the livestream camera, he secretly wet his finger with saliva, stood on the cabinet, and reached it over. He quickly felt a very faint airflow. This was the truth behind the ghostly crying at midnight. The abandoned mall had long since lost power, and the reason air was still moving was probably because the unpowered rooftop ventilator was still operating. This kind of rotating metal ball is covered all over with blades. As long as there's wind outside, it will automatically spin. It draws the air out of the room and uses negative pressure to achieve ventilation and air exchange. When the airflow passes through the gaps in the vent, it makes a sound very much like a child or a woman crying. This was an instrument created by a combination of coincidences. There were no windows in the room, so every time the door was opened, the pressure difference between inside and outside would change, and the airflow speed would adjust accordingly. Once the vibration frequency changed, the strange sound would disappear with it. What Gulang admired most now was that Taoist priest who had pasted up the talismans. He was probably a civil engineering major who had switched careers. That lousy major really does have pretty poor job prospects. Actively developing a side hustle to save yourself is only natural. Gulang now completely understood the arrangement of the room. The other talisman papers had all been pasted up with glue. They were just a smokescreen used to cover up the real core commercial secret. As for those 5 elements ornaments, they were for scamming money and generating income. The truly crucial step was actually only that house-protecting talisman by the door. The Taoist priest had deliberately covered it with transparent tape, sealing the gap tightly. Earlier, Gulang had spent a lot of effort just to tear it off. In fact, casually applying a bit of glue at that spot would solve the midnight ghost crying problem. For the Taoist priest to see through the truth at a glance and cast his spell to drive away the ghost, he was clearly highly accomplished. At the very least, he had to be a first-class registered ventilation and drainage engineer. In short, a first-class feng shui master. By Sunday morning the next day, Gulang woke up and picked up his burning hot phone. Looking at the huge number of gifts and countless comments in the live stream room, he smiled eerily and ended the stream. From then on, the local area had one more urban legend.